Okay, but you actually had some time left on your contract.
I did. I had 3 years left.
3 years.
So I could have waited it out.
Okay, right. Because, from what I read, there was a $5 million buyout. No comment.
None. No comment on that.
Okay, so obviously there was a reason, regardless of what the buyout is, you have 3 years left on your contract. And how long was the contract initially for? Was it 5 years?
4.
Okay, so you're 25% into your new contract, and they decided to buy out 75% of that contract. That's a pretty clear indicator that you guys aren't on the same page anymore.
What I would say, and realize they offered me the opportunity to do something else, to stay and be a part of some other shows.
But not SportsCenter.
No, but I had already left SportsCenter by the time we had that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess to give the full scale timeline is that things already weren't going right on SportsCenter by the time Donald Trump happened. I was thinking then that at the end of that contract, I was not going to come back to SportsCenter. The feeling probably would have been mutual, so I'm not even here to gas my own head up to think that they would have been pleading for me to stay. So I wasn't gonna come back to do that. But then the question would have been, well, what else is there left to do? Which there was a big question mark around that, a big mystery. I've already been at ESPN 12 years. By the time that deal would have been up, it had been 15, 16 years. So what else is there? The Donald Trump thing happens, and frankly, that opened my eyes to the other possibilities out there. A month and a half before Donald Trump happened, me and my best friend from college, we started our own production company. So I was already sort of plotting what the next part of my career was going to look like. Donald Trump just sped it up, because then at that point on SportsCenter, there was only, the show had changed dramatically in a way that was not suited, I think, to bring out the best in us. It was not the show we signed up to do. So leaving that was easy. I wanted to get back to writing anyway, so that's why I chose to go and work with The Undefeated, ESPN's vertical site. I could still do as much or as little TV as I wanted at that time. So I was bouncing around and doing television with friends, producers I liked, shows I always loved. And by the time I approached ESPN about leaving, it had just felt like I had reached the point that I thought I would get to 3 years from there. I'd reached it already, which was there was not much left for me to do. And I'm self-aware. Like, I know that there's a narrative that they're trying to escape under, being too political, too liberal. So it just seemed like this was an advantageous time for both of us to just be realistic and about what we could do together. There was never any loss of respect on either side. As I said before I left, they asked me if I wanted to take a deeper involvement with creating some things for The Undefeated on the TV side, with maybe being an even more permanent part of Highly Questionable, or doing something deeper with Sports Nation. So they offered me the opportunity to do all those things. I just chose not to because I was ready to get this next part of my career started.
How did it feel after being at ESPN for 12 years, that last day, walking out of that office and saying, okay, this chapter is now closed? With so much attention, so much of your, quote unquote fame came from ESPN.
It was, it sunk in by degrees, because my last day, I sort of had a couple last days, because I had my last day on air, and the last show I did was Highly Questionable. So that happened, and knowing that, hey, I probably, won't be doing TV with ESPN, even though we talked about, maybe me doing some one-offs for some things. It's like, oh, this will not be a part of my daily job anymore. So it felt like, wow, okay, that's what that feels like. And then my official last day, because I had done an interview with Matt Stafford a month before that was airing the next week. So I sort of had another week or so to go. And even when that day came, I just didn't really know how to feel. Something that has been a part of your life for that long. It's the longest job I've ever had. It's the best job I've ever had. But the one thing I was really happy about I knew who I was before ESPN. I knew who I was during ESPN, and I certainly know who I am now that I'm not with ESPN. For a lot of people, it doesn't necessarily happen that way. And because I did have such a strong sense of who I was, and for more importantly, what I wanted to do next, I didn't go through a mourning period. I didn't, I wasn't like Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction, sitting there flicking the lamp on and off once I left. And this is, I don't want people to take it the wrong way, but I know inevitably people will. But I did feel a lot lighter. That was probably the sensation more than anything. Not because I felt like I had been punished there or that it was a grueling experience. It obviously wasn't. I stayed there 12 years.
Yeah.
But mostly because a lot of what had happened in the last year, it felt like it had been lifted. And, I'm sure, they would probably say the same thing. It's like, me not being there created less of a headache for them. It's just the truth. And so I just felt like it was just time to move on.
Well, you ended up joining The Atlantic as a staff writer, so
Yep.
now you get back to the whole writing thing. And then you worked with LeBron James, not directly, I guess, but you worked on the documentary. You narrated it. Mm-hmm. Were you an investor in that project as well?
No, I was not an investor.
Okay, you
Nope.
just did the narration.
I was the voice.
Exactly. And you started the production company with Kelly Carter, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I guess you guys are working with Gabriel Union on something.
Yeah, we started the production company because we're both writers at heart. We both believe in good storytelling, want to tell stories, specifically want to tell stories, multivariate, multidimensional, versatile stories about women of color. And people of color, period. And so I know a lot of times when people hear that, they automatically think heavy material. But I think, I'm seeing now this wave in Hollywood that's kind of addressing that, is that for so long, it seems like the first picture about somebody of color to be greenlit is a slave movie, some kind of traumatic experience that we've had to live through. Those movies are always on the table. But now it feels like there's a little bit of a detour away from that, and that people are realizing Black people laugh. We go on vacations. We have girls trips. Like
Right.
that happens, And so we wanted to, while still addressing important issues, but bring a levity to it in the storytelling. So what we're developing with Gabrielle and Sony is a comedy.
Dope.
And it's loosely based off, and I gotta say loosely, because I know some people, when you say something's loosely based off anything, they're going to try to find themselves in it. So it's loosely based off my friendship with Kelly, which is now spanned 20 years, 20 plus years. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. And we have some other things that will be in development that we're, close to making some announcements on. So I think people will be very surprised by the type of content that we produce. I know just because I'm a part of it, they automatically think sports, right? But very little of what we do or what we want to do is sports related.
Well, you were named the Journalist of the Year by the National Association of Black Journalists, 2018.
Yeah, that was...
Congrats.
Thank you. That was a tremendous honor. I've been a part of NABJ since I was a teenager. I joined when I was 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so this was so
Yeah,
this was an organization that you'd been messing
been
with.
a part of for many years. It was
most of your life, actually.
Yeah, it changed my life.
Yeah.
Because you get to network, develop relationships with journalists of color from all across the country, even the world. And it's a environment where if you don't have that sense of belonging, you get in this environment, you do get it. Not to mention the opportunity to put yourself before dozens of outlets and networks and that kind of thing. So from a networking standpoint, it's invaluable. But, more importantly than that, to get this award, which is among their most prestigious, looking at who else has received it, April Ryan, Roland Martin, Soledad O'Brien, like some really amazing journalists, and to have my name alongside theirs, it still feels like it didn't happen. And then at the extra icing of to receive this award in my own hometown, because the last time NABJ was in Detroit was when I joined it. And so to see all of this kind of come full circle and the amount of love and support that I received from NABJ during all the duress and just throughout my career, it was a very special moment for me.